The Canon 5D Mark IV went on sale in September of 2016, which means it's just turned 8 years old. And there's absolutely no doubt that this is still a highly capable camera. I absolutely love my 5D Mark IV and I've held on to it. I just can't seem to let it go. But its position has shifted somewhat in the face of newer mirrorless technology that we're seeing coming out, or we have seen come out in the last few years. And this has given us much more advanced features than what we see in the aging 5D Mark IV. So where does the 5D Mark IV stand in 2024? And should you consider getting one of these cameras now, or should you be looking at something else? Well, that's what we're discussing today, so let's jump into it. So because it's 2024 and this is the 5D Mark IV, I want to talk about 4 strengths that I see that this camera still has today. The first thing has to be image quality. It's really hard to beat the image quality that comes out of this camera, particularly because you've got that 30.4 megapixel sensor. Its color depth and dynamic range still remain quite competitive when compared to more modern cameras, which still makes it ideal for professional photography, so portraits, landscapes, and weddings. The second thing that I can attest to with this camera is its durability. This is known as being a robust workhorse of a camera. I've personally used this camera all over the world, from snowy conditions in New York to the blistering heat and humidity of Malaysia. And I've also had the opportunity to carry it around in the wet conditions of Japan, in the hot, arid lands of Malta. Wasn't that arid? But I can definitely attest to the durability of this camera in all types of weather conditions as well. I remember using it during a wedding where there was torrential rain and we were shooting outside, and it held up really well despite the wet conditions. And even today, it's still a go-to for photographers who want a dependable, rugged camera. Point 3 is something that I absolutely raved about with this camera when it came out, and that was the DP-AF, the dual pixel autofocus. It was just so cutting edge for its time, and even today, it just works so well with photos and videos, making sure that your subject of interest is in focus all the time. And for me, the dual pixel autofocus still makes this camera a viable option today in 2024, particularly for hybrid shooters. Point number 4, in 2024, for the 5D Mark IV, is going to be the 4K. Yes, the 4K is cropped, but if you're using a wide angle lens, which is what I did later on, something like a 16mm to 35mm, you can actually use the 4K on this camera. It's usable, which is perfect for things like YouTube videos that you want in 4K. I think that if you're a photographer who wants to dabble in 4K video, the 5D Mark IV is going to be a good option for you in 2024. Those are 4 strengths of the 5D Mark IV in 2024. But what about 4 challenges that this camera has in 2024 and beyond? No prizes guessing the first one. It's going to be outdated technology compared to new mirrorless cameras. When we look at more modern mirrorless cameras like the Canon R6 Mark II, the Canon R5, and now the R5 Mark II, these have significant improvements over the older DSLR range. Things like autofocus speed, shooting rates, and overall compactness. Primarily, you get much better video options with the newer cameras as well, which is something to think about if you are a photographer who wants to do high quality video. Point number 2 we've touched on a little bit, and that is the size and weight. The 5D Mark IV is a beast of a camera. Just holding the body in my hand for the last few minutes filming this video is making my shoulder feel really weighted down. This is not an ideal solution for people who want to do travel or street photography. It's heavy, and if you're pairing it with an equally heavy lens, then your back is going to be done in by the end of the day. The size and weight of more modern mirrorless cameras makes them much more easier to use for longer periods of time. Third challenge that this camera is going to face is the lack of IBIS. Comparing this to more modern mirrorless cameras, which most of them do have IBIS or in-body image stabilization, which makes shooting much easier. This is something that's disappointing for the 5D Mark IV, but of course it wasn't a major feature when it came out back in 2016. My back actually is hurting trying to hold this up. The 4th point for challenges on our list is going to be the log functionality. Now, when it was released, the 5D Mark IV didn't have C-Log installed. You had to go to a separate location like a Canon dealer and get it installed there for an extra fee. And I used to rave about C-Log on the 5D Mark IV. I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. But now, in 2024, the C-Log really does not hold up. It's 8 bits, it's really mushy or mushy. The picture quality just falls apart as soon as you start to try and do anything to it. Compared to the modern version of C-Log and things like C-Log 3 that you've got on the R6 here, it really doesn't hold up And because of that, I think it's going to suffer with those who want to use this for filmmaking or video production. And I think I'm going to have to put it down for this next section. Literally like holding a brick in your hand. I wanted to show you this camera today.
Yeah.
This is the Canon 5D Mark IV. I was using this camera when you were a little baby.
Okay.
I had a shoot in Malaysia back in 2016. This was the camera I used. I was in Malaysia for 10 days. You came as a little baby. You wasn't even a year old. Came back from Malaysia. 3 days later, I was on a plane to New York to do an event in Philadelphia. So in the space of like a month, you had been to like a really hot, humid place in Malaysia and then a really cold, snowy New York. So I want you to hold the camera that I built my business on and tell me what you think about that.
It's heavy.
What's that?
Heavy.
Say it again.
It's heavy. It's heavy.
It's heavy, yeah. What would you think about using that to create videos?
It will be very hard to just carry around with me.
So that is what I used. And nowadays, what do you use to shoot your videos with?
Phone! Much lighter and easier.
So should you buy a Canon 5D Mark IV in 2024? That is the question. If you already own a Canon 5D Mark IV, I'm sure you will agree that even in 2024, it's still a very strong tool for professional photography, especially for those who prefer an optical viewfinder and also that traditional DSLR experience. However, if you're just starting out or you're looking to upgrade, then you might want to consider something more modern, like one of the newer R cameras. Look at getting yourself maybe a second-hand R6, an R6 Mark II, R5, R5 Mark II. I feel like these have the best features, and also there's future-proofing for people who are like content creators and filmmakers. Your camera is just gonna be more relevant in the next few years than maybe the 5D Mark IV will be. So best uses in 2024, in my opinion, are going to be stills photography, particularly where the weight and the compactness are not a problem. Things like event, portrait, landscape photography, 100% yes, absolutely. And also for photography in harsh environments, if it's very cold and there's lots of snow, or it's very humid, or maybe there's a lot of sand, the 5D Mark IV is a great option for photography in those environments. I'm picking it up again. I absolutely adore my 5D Mark IV. That's why I still have it. I haven't got rid of it. I use this camera to build my wedding and corporate videography business, which I think a lot of you could still use this for today practically if you're not using log. I'm really keen to know what you guys think of this camera in 2024. I know a lot of you who've subscribed to the channel have watched a few of my reviews on this camera over the years. So are you still using it today, or have you upgraded to something else? Let me know in the comments box below. Today's video is actually part of the Vlogtober challenge, and today is day 14, which means we're getting closer and closer to the middle of the month and halfway through the challenge. If you've been supporting the challenge, I absolutely appreciate that, and thank you very much. And if you haven't done so already, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell button for notifications. And with that said, I will see you guys tomorrow.